Go, Ms. Weishaupt.
Okay.
I'm going to make the same motion for the third time.
Okay.
I'd like to make the motion that the board permits email submission public comments during the time that we are in under capacity of this facility for people to attend the meetings due to the health pandemic that we're in, based on the same formats that we use for our in-person comments, adding to, they have to have it to the board president by 5 o'clock on Friday before the board meeting.
Sounds good.
I second.
All right.
Get on.
So you don't feel concerned that the wording doesn't include what somebody had added, that until we're in stage 5? That would make me feel more comfortable, just so it's clear, because the time of COVID, unfortunately, it's a while.
But I think what Brad's saying, stage 5 doesn't mean that you're at full capacity.
Correct. Okay.
And we may have a different pandemic that has different stages.
Oh,
so.
Please.
Let's just know.
Okay. I don't want to hear.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Ms. Schindler?
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Galligan?
Aye.
Mrs. Corbett?
Aye.
Mrs. Gardenauer?
Aye.
Mrs. Higbee?
Aye.
Mrs. Weishaupt?
Aye.
Mrs. Murphy?
Aye. Okay. And now we are ready for information and discussion items. Do we have anything else before we start that section? All right. Information and discussion items. First reading of replacement policy 4162, alcohol and controlled testing policy for commercial driver's license, CDL employees. Mr. Briscoe.
Right, this is a first reading. The board will not have to vote on this tonight. We'll bring it back for a vote the next month. There was a law that came in place on January the 1. We have been following the law, so we've not been out of compliance, but we do have to change our policy. In this particular case, we thought the ISBA language was far superior to the Neola language, and I'm going to have Eric come up and present that. Eric, for everybody else, he's Director of Transportation.
All right, good evening. So basically what happened was years ago, the law read 50% of your CDL employees had to test for drugs and 25% would test for the alcohol. Well, probably 7-8 years ago, they changed the alcohol portion from 25 to 10%. We didn't change it here. We kept it at 25%. Main reason was I felt like going to 10% was way too small of a percentage, so we kept it at 25%, and CDL came back and said that we're going to increase it back to 25. So we've been doing the same thing. Nothing's changed. The clearinghouse is something new, and that's basically just as drivers come on board, we have to go through basically just signing them up, and it's a list of if they get caught drinking and driving, then it goes on their record. So,
Can you tell us what the involvement has been or the process with the Bus Drivers Association with this policy?
well, I mean, this policy's been in place since I got here. I mean, this is a policy that's at every school corporation. So, I don't believe as far as
Just changing it, the fact that we're just language.
Well, I mean, we're not really changing anything. The only thing we're adding is the clearinghouse, and that's mandatory by law. We have to change that. So, but the percentages have stayed the same. So, and I did text Mr. Briscoe. I read this policy and read it, and I don't know how I missed it, but in the policy that you have in front of you, it says 50% and 10%. That's inaccurate. It is 50 and 25. So that's what we've been doing. It's not changed. So.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay, good.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, thanks.
All right. And now COVID-19 update, Dr. Snyder.
Yeah. Well, I think my intent here is to just kind of tell you what happened in the last 2 weeks, which is really quite a lot. But before we get started, I guess I want to honor all of the voices that began the meeting. And I think Barb Bridgewater probably said it best. I think we overlook the word unprecedented. This really is unprecedented in that I've been doing public school work for a very long time, and I can't recall any situation even remotely as tense or as difficult or as complex as this. And I think everybody understands that we are all are in the same boat. The opinions that we have, everybody has a very strong opinion, very strong, whether that's required or optional or strongly recommended. That creates debate, as does 3-foot or 6-foot, as does virtual, e-learn, synchronous, asynchronous, physical school. That creates debate. School calendar, you should do it this way. You should start early and take advantage and make hay while the sun. No, you shouldn't. You should wait until this thing dies down, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these are very, very difficult decisions, extremely difficult. And I think all of us are looking for the same thing. We're looking for what is good and true. And I don't think we quite know that with this particular virus. This morning after I did my spiritual work, I did some of my intellectual work out of service that brings me, things I like to read. I like op-eds that are well written. And the first two on the list this morning, the first one said, remote learning doesn't work, it's harming our children. So I read that article. And the second one in the list said, going to school is dangerous. So which is it? Which is good and true? Remote learning doesn't work, it's harming our children. I mean, there is risk. There's different types of risk. It may not be epidemiological risk to e-learning, but kids aren't socializing, they're looking at a screen. There's some risk there. We don't know exactly what that'll look like in 5 or 10 or 20 years. But there's also, and the second one says going to school is dangerous. So 2 weeks ago we spent, it goes longer back than that. When the governor, I believe late May, asked us to form a reopening plan, we began our work. And 2 weeks ago, believe it, just 2 weeks ago, we spent about 4 hours in this room going through a 22-page document. And again, the centerpiece of that was required, strongly recommended, but there were other things in there. And so last week, now I guess now I'll move on to kind of the timeline of some of the things that's happened in just the 2 weeks. And there'll be more things. Everybody talks about the need to have, be nimble and fluid. We're experiencing it in real time. Last week, I think I watched a couple press conferences where from the federal level, the feds were making a real strong push. A real strong push for physical school. And I thought there were a number of compelling educational, societal, emotional, economic arguments. I thought they made sense. But then at the same time, you turn around and I think we all watch pretty much the same media, different forms of that media, but they are pointing time and time again to increasing positive cases. That the virus is not going away. It is behaving on its own accord, and so there it is. Should we go to school or should we wait till it dies down, or we get a vaccine? Etc. Those are real tough decisions for all of us to weigh in. Governor Holcomb, I think once again, he made a just, in my opinion, a right and just move. We were scheduled to move to phase 5, but he kind of hit the brakes. He pumped them once and said, we're going to 4.5. His last presser last Wednesday, he didn't make any changes, but I did think he sent the signal, at least to me, that the data is changing and it is, manifestations are on the increase. I think he'll be out next Wednesday. I have no crystal ball, whether he'll stay at 4.5 or he'll be retroactive and take us back to a 4 or take us back to a 3 or let us go to 5. Those are his decisions. Another thing that happened this week, just happened this morning, that will get a lot of attention in public school circles. A very large school district in Indiana made a decision that they're not starting physical school. They've canceled fall sports. On July, whatever today is, 13th, they've canceled all fall sports, and they're not going to go to school in a physical manner. That's big news. That's a decision that was made in a boardroom like this for, similar reasons. Now, there are 291, 92, 93 school cards. So will they all follow suit with that? I don't know. Will we follow suit with that? I don't know. I mean, we've got to come together and figure out what's right for all of us. I also think the CDC is supposedly going to reissue some more guidance. Now, whether that's the same guidance packaged differently or whether it changes, we'll have to wait to see that. But again, that could reshape the dynamic of the argument. And with respect to our plan, I think we got what you would expect. More readers have more opinions and more thoughts, and they send those in the form of email. Have you considered this? I think it should say that. And we vet that out. And we've made some changes. We tweaked some transportation stuff. We tweaked some food service stuff. I think we got some more stuff in the offerings. I think our nurse and Dr. Lane set some stuff in that, again, requires vetting. It requires us to slow down, read it, and say, does this go in? Is this, how far in the weeds, and those types of things. The other thing I think that we've learned is we put some Q&A types of documents that, again, were intended to be a tool to help our parents. But then kind of really what's happened there is some of the readers have really engaged deeply in hypotheticals. So we have to take time to think about, well, do we really want to, because every case is individual and case by case, and we may need the advice of Dr. Harris, et cetera. So we got to kind of decide how much of our time we want to spend in hypotheticals. And there's value in it because it forces thought, it forces planning, but at the same time, we're not there. It's only a hypothetical. So we're really struggling with the minutes that we have every day to make all of these types of decisions. And again, over the weekend, or this morning, I guess, when I came in, I saw, Dr. Lane and Andrea push forward an idea of doing something for the kids, which I really liked. What to expect. And I hope they act on it to create a video, because I think that's a good thing. Kids are a digital forum, and we do, some moving forward types of stuff. But I think our kids do have some apprehension. I don't think they exactly know what to expect. I don't think our parents know exactly what to expect, which, again, that then feeds into our enrollment process, which, we've changed software systems and we have some issues there, but it's going kind of slow because I don't think people know. They don't exactly know what they want to do. They want to do the safe thing. They want to do the smart thing. They want to do the right thing for their kid. They don't want to be left behind, but they don't want to, they don't want to put them in harm's way. So all of this is just very, very weighty. What I will tell you is we had a couple of great internal discussions this morning that I believe we're going to take to the association tomorrow. And again, it's an idea that I hope that they can improve or reject, but I think what we want to do is I think we want to start exploring early, and I do mean early, would be some preemptive e-learn days. Because as you look at the modeling and you look at the data, it seems to me that we're probably going to have to use the e-learning component at some point for building X, for building Y, for building Z, or maybe the whole corporation. I do not know. But our discussion this morning was there's a lot to learn in terms of getting the devices out. Does your user ID work? Do you have connectivity? Does your teacher have the right camera? There's just a lot of bugs, and so I think it would be in our best interests to start school in July 29, do our very best, and exercise fidelity to the physical piece of that, button down our fountains, enforce mask wearing, enforce social distancing, all those kinds of things, and try to get the community to have a sense of routine, try to figure out the transportation stuff, and observe the car rider lines and see who's enrolling. I mean, that's going to be a situation where we're going to have large number of students on day 2 who didn't show up on day 1, large number of students who show up on day 3 who didn't show up on day 2. I want to be virtual. No, I don't. I want to be physical. I was physical, but now I'm virtual. I mean, all of that is going to be a ginormous workload for all of that. But I would like for us to get in and see if we can't establish some semblance of a rhythm and routine for the nucleus family, for the single family to get something going. But then soon and very soon, I think we need to sharpen our toolkit on the electronic side to see if we can't get that piece of our machinery tuned and honed. Because it's just my opinion. You may agree with it or disagree. I think we're going to need that tool as the year unfolds. And we may need it on day 1. Right? We may need it on July 29th. I don't know as quickly as all of this is happening, but as the daylight starts getting shorter and the UV leaves us, it's probably going to be coming. And I guess I'll just end here that I think everybody is aware that the pace is really furious. It's just really the tide is moving really fast. We haven't really finished last year. I'm hoping we can do that with a bang to the young lady. We do owe homage to all the good work that the class of 2020 did. It is their rite of passage. Every kid, right? I mean, our 4th grader. You're only a 4th grader once. So we want that 4th grade experience to be as good as it can possibly be. And that gal, Meg, I think her name was, I mean, she's only a senior once. She's only going to get one shot at graduation. And, I'm working with Rob and Michelle, and we'd like for that to be as meaningful to Meg and her family as we can make it. And that's what we're trying to do. We're going to listen to what the governor has to say to us on Wednesday. We're going to huddle up at 4 o'clock, make a call with Dr. Harris and see if our plans are sufficient and appropriate to everyone. And if they are, we're going to execute and give Meg what we can do for her. And if they're not, we're going to adjust them and do what we can. And face it strong and tall. I really don't know what else to do. But we owe as much work as we can give the 2020 graduates, while at the same time we're trying to keep an eye on going forward for the 2021 school year. So that would be my update. I'll answer questions, or we can do whatever you need to, but that's really just a 2-week summary, and it is fluid, it is dynamic, and we're paying attention, but there's a lot to pay attention to, and there are a lot of voices that need to be accommodated, a lot of voices that have strong beliefs, strong opinions, and we're doing what we can. Before I get off my soapbox, I guess I need to, I want to leave it with the way I need to leave every one of these conversations. Our administrators came in last Thursday, and we're working on one positive thing. That's what we're trying to start every meeting with, one positive thing. But again, I would ask all of you, some of you presented yourselves as strong school supporters. We'll take kindness. Where if you can find a way to show grace to our teachers, we would take it. If you can find a way to show grace to our students, and just find a way to support our bus drivers and find a way to support, because there is fear, and they are putting themselves in a difficult situation. And this is very hard work. It's unprecedented, as Barb would say, and we're going to do our best. We're going to go in there and do our very best.
And I commend all the efforts that you guys are doing, because I know it's just daily conversations. I would like to ask Dr. Snyder, what, in your leadership, what would have to happen in order for you to make the recommendation that we delay the start of the school year, or that we go virtual for the first 9 weeks, if you will? What has to happen for you to make that decision?
Well, that's a very hard question, Mrs. Weishart, and in my mind, I have two answers. I guess the first answer would be medical evidence, working with Dr. Harris, that the Floyd County is a hot spot, that the incidence, the manifestations are very high. We're putting Floyd Memorial Baptist, in harm's way, ventilators and those types of things. That we are coached and or directed by health officials that would be an appropriate decision for us. And then second would be more political, and that would be that the will of the community says we don't want to do it. We want to e-learn. And my read on the community is it's mixed. Some are ready to go. Some are hopeful for athletics. Some are hopeful for clubs. Some are hopeful to see what will happen. Now, my read could be wrong, but that would be something I would make in consultation with the full board. I mean, you are the elected representatives, and so if you are getting lots and lots and lots of, let's not do this, I would work with you. That's not my read at the moment, but I'm one voice.
Where would you rank? So I hear your medical advice from local officials. And then second, I think I heard you say was political. But where do the voices of our teachers and our staff rank in this? And before you answer while you're thinking, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I have had numerous teachers and staff reach out to me in the last 2 weeks that are scared out of their wits. They don't want to come back and teach in these environments. And I do want to pass this out to the board. None of the teachers that I spoke with gave me permission and asked, quite honestly, that I keep them confidential because they fear retribution. They don't want retribution. Every one of them that I talked to that is nervous about going back to school has said they want to see their kids, but they don't think that it's safe. They're not even under contract right now. So they're going to have a little bit an amount of time to even prepare to teach at any point when we go back, because they're not even on contract right now. And in the Indiana Code 2029-69, it gives teachers the permission to speak to board members about their concerns outside of collective bargaining. So teachers do not feel like they're allowed to talk to board members because they feel like they have expressed that they've been told they're only allowed to talk to their representative, which is absolutely not true. And I am not willing to let the voices of these teachers fall on deaf ears. I'm asking you to please consider right now, at the very minimum, would you consider pushing the start date of school out further so that our teachers have some time to plan? And would you also please consider not having any of our school buildings open the first semester, the first 9 weeks, so that we can get a grip on this? And I have the data, I have the numbers. There's not a person sitting up here that doesn't care about these kids. There's not a person sitting up here that doesn't want what's best for our corporation and our kids. I know that. There is no right answer. And my comments are not based on emotion. My comments are based on science, medical professions, input, including a local pediatrician and the governor's orders, which I'll share some of that when we talk about the graduation. Our local pediatrician, of whom you've already mentioned tonight, put it on Facebook what they believe today. I believe in opening schools, but only after several measures have been implemented to reduce risk to both students and staff, and after we know that cases in our community are steady at or under 5% in that medical professional. She's also posted data that she does the tracing, and I got on the website myself. Floyd County, in the age group of age birth to 19, so the pediatric community, the percentage of positive cases in that age group in Floyd County has increased and is now up to 5% as of today's numbers. So kids get sick. Are kids dying at the realm of the adults? Absolutely not. But the same data shows that 44 people from Floyd County have died. And I'm not willing to risk one kid or one adult to get sick or to potentially die from this virus when we can go and be safe. And then we don't even have to worry about who wants masks and who doesn't. The safest route is to not have school the first 9 weeks, and I'm asking you, please, to consider that.
Brad, are you looking for a holistic direction from the board here?
Yeah, I don't know that it's my
Yeah.
decision. I mean, the board, the board endorsed the plan 2 weeks ago. I thought we were going
Yes.
7/29.
So I absolutely agree with Ms. Weishart in that all of us, safety is absolutely paramount. I've said at the last meeting, you know, not just my own children are in these schools, but everybody else's children, our staff, et cetera. I do appreciate you speaking to the need for our plan to be fluid. Right on the American Academy of Pediatrics site, it does say school policies must be flexible and nimble in responding to new information, and administrators must be willing to refine approaches when specific policies are not working. And that's one of the reasons I had asked for a 2-week review, not just the issue of masks, but just for everything that we decided and that's included in our plan. Also, just, I'm paraphrasing some, but also on the same site, the AAP site, the American Academy of Pediatrics strongly advocates that all policy considerations for the coming school year should start with the goal of having students physically present in school. Now, that might well change. We don't know what's going to happen on Wednesday. We don't know what's going to happen with numbers, et cetera, but they're advocating that that should be our first goal. The importance of in-person learning is well documented. There's already evidence of the negative impacts of children because of school closures in the spring of 2020. Lengthy time away from schools and associated interruption of supported services often results in social isolation, making it difficult for schools to identify and address important learning deficits, as well as child and adolescent physical or sexual abuse, substance abuse, depression, suicidal ideation. These are safety issues as well. This in turn that was my insert about the safety issues as well. This in turn places children and adolescents at a considerable risk of morbidity and in some cases mortality. Beyond the educational impact and social impact of school closures, there has been substantial impact on food security and physical activity for children and families. My stance is that we should be, I think a good leader does need to look to experts. I said at the last meeting, I'm not a medical doctor. I can barely watch, an episode where they actually show the surgeries, but I'm digressing. I think we need to be looking to our experts. This is a very emotionally charged time. The emails that we've received are varied, with people feeling from one extreme to the other. It's very hard not to, especially as a parent, especially as somebody, I was a teacher as well, that is going into our schools, that is charged with our children, as Ms. Webster had said. I mean, they have a profound impact on our children. I am in favor of waiting for direction from medical professionals and not making decisions without their interjection of what they would deem to be appropriate. And we may have to go to virtual. Governor Holcomb may mandate that. But I think we should wait to see what those mandates are based on expert opinion.
But when I asked Dr. Snyder what has to happen, and Ms. Hibge, respectfully I say this, what has to happen? What's your opinion? You've read everything about the Association of Pediatrics and all that. You want local professional. It's our local pediatrician. These are numbers that are from the governor's office. It's the state numbers. Kids are getting this on an increasing rate. At what point do we take into consideration the ADA or whatever, but we use our own brain and try to save one kid or one adult when we can just protect them for 9 weeks? What has to happen for that decision to be made? How much higher do these numbers have to be?
Well, I guess that's the difficulty for me or the rest is it 9 weeks, or is it 18, or is it 27, or is it 36? I mean, the virus is going to be with us a while.
And the virus is changing.
And so are we willing to not have a year of physical school? I guess that's a real question.
If it's a matter of someone's life and death, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I
that's-
would take that.
That's fine, that's fine.
It's not a want. I don't want it.
No,
I know kids learn better in
I'm
the
not placing a
classroom.
judgment on it. I'm just asking a rhetorical question because, that's, when should we start? Well, I
Well,
don't
and
know.
we're also having to balance the staff and the teachers. They're at a lot higher risk than the students are.
Certainly.
So we're having to balance those two.
Yes.
And if one person tests positive and you've been exposed based on medical professional statements, if you've been exposed to someone who tested positive and the tracing identifies that you've been exposed, you have to quarantine for 14 weeks. What's that do to our teachers? 14 days, I'm sorry. What does that do to our teacher? If our teacher's exposed to someone and then they have to go out for 14, I don't understand. Why don't we just play it safe?
I'm sure y'all have talked about stuff like that, but I mean, if you go out for 14 days, they have a hard enough time getting subs today, and so then we're going to have to try to find subs to come in while the numbers are going up. I don't know if there's a plan to, maybe if somebody is in quarantine, they do the virtual teaching versus not.
And
Those are all hypotheticals.
And I agree with her. I have not said it. This is not easy.
It's not going to be easy.
There's none of this that's easy. Fear is very real. We do have an enormous concern with our bus drivers. We have enormous concern with our staff. Janine gets calls and emails every day of people having different situations. This is hard. The easy thing to do is probably not have it. Now, I don't know, that's why I need the board. I don't know if that's a right thing from a societal and a student growth and those types of things. Certainly the easiest thing.
It would stop the mask argument.
Stops the mask argument.
You just sat here and said enormous, multiple times, multiple segments of our staff. You said enormous concern from our staff. Why are we not listening to them? If there's an enormous amount of bus drivers, an enormous amount of teachers, Janine's getting an enormous amount of phone calls, why are we not just going to be safe? I don't understand. And then when I ask you what is it going to take, you have no answer. So that hope is not a plan.
Right.
Again, even at the national level, they're advocating that we be flexible and nimble in responding to new information. This is something that's unprecedented. So we just need to refine approaches as we go with the
Right.
information that we have.
I just have a couple questions. We hadn't talked about this before. We kind of mentioned at the last meeting where we did away with the fall break and kids didn't come back after Thanksgiving. It's probably too late in the game, but if we did away with fall break and kids went back to school 2 weeks after, July 29th, is that the first day of school?
Yeah.
Would that make a big difference or whatever? I just have to put this out there because, I talked to somebody today, husband and wife went to get tested, signed all the papers, and the line was too long, they just decided to leave. Well, guess what they got in the mail? They tested positive for COVID-19. They didn't even take a test. And so that's, this is very real, very real. And I don't know I don't know what to believe anymore, to tell you the truth.
I can tell you
really
there's
don't know
44
what
death
to believe.
certificates in Floyd County, and that's not at a national level.
Yeah.
That is
yeah.
Floyd County, Indiana. There are 44 death certificates because of COVID.
Yeah,
I didn't make it up.
well,
Dr. Snyder, would it be possible for classroom teachers to have their own thermal temperature taker thermometer so that at the beginning of the day they could do an entire classroom check, or is that too costly or can we use CARES money for that? I understand you can't do New Albany High School, but if teachers in their homeroom setting at New Albany High School all had a way to take temperatures and then send students home if they are showing a fever, would that be something that could be possibly be done?
It could possibly be done. Let me do this. Bill, I'm going to call you into the discussion because Bill has done incredible work that people in this community do not understand. I hope they appreciate. But anyway, he's met with Lisa and he's met with Joy. And when I say enormous, I'm speaking to there. Teachers, just like the public, just like the board, they have a broad spectrum of opinions and risk tolerance and beliefs and fears. So, maybe I am not speaking properly when I say you use the word enormous. Some have strong fear. Some have underlying health conditions. Some don't. But Bill, can you shed some light on all of the good work that you have done during the month of June?
And if Ms. McIntyre can help or contribute at all, I'd welcome her to do so.
It's sort of dangerous inviting me into the conversation sometimes, but I will. We have had a lot of discussion with the Teacher Association, and we've talked to a lot of non-members who have had concerns, have went to Janine. The first thing today when we had some discussion, and we had these same discussions, every discussion you have here, we challenge ourselves every day. Are we doing the right thing? Is this the appropriate thing? And I don't think there's a right answer. I mean, really, sitting here today, 2 weeks out, is it best to go all virtual or is it best to move on? I think to me, I wouldn't put ourselves in a corner and I'd see where the data goes. There's a situation where the governor may change and get a different direction going. We don't know that, whether it's going to move forward or move back. It does look like it's trending upward in Indiana. It does look like it's trending upward in Floyd County. It does. We are in constant contact with Dr. Harris. I've talked to him on Friday. I talked to him on Saturday. I will talk to him several times this week. We'll talk to him again on Wednesday after the governor gives a thing about graduation, which we think is important to have if we can have it. But we've had a lot of conversation with teachers, and today when we thought that we may have to have a trial run on going virtual early to where we can turn on a dime and be able to execute in the manner that our public wants us to execute and have a better product if we go virtual, better than we had last spring, which we want to have. We're going to have that conversation with them tomorrow. So I called Lisa. I said, we need to talk at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Can you get your whole bargaining team? And
she did.
And she did, right there on the spot. And I know their lives is, they've really not had a separate. They've been working with us. And we are going to have some honest conversation, and we're going to even challenge ourselves as what virtual plan that we have in place right now that's in the plan. Is there other ways to do virtual? And we'll have that discussion tomorrow. We'll get teacher input because they've been getting input from their teachers. Many teachers are going to Janine and sending in and saying they have underlying health conditions, and some of them are accurate, and there's doctor statements and very valid, and we're going to try our best to try to work with that situation. Some do not have the underlying health conditions. It may be a child that has or a different situation. Not that that's not important, and Janine's done a great job of trying to handle every employee and talk them through different situations. My gut is to never lock yourself into a corner and do exactly what we said we're going to do. We're going to be nimble. We're going to be adaptive. We are going to change on a dime. And I do think it's important for us to get a little practice on the virtual thing in case we have to go there. I don't think any of us are right now are convinced that we're starting school the first day. We have to consider whether that's the right thing to do or not. But we have 2 more weeks to make that decision. To me, it's better to vet it out, have discussion, talk to, just like you said, health experts. We need to talk to Dr. Harris. We're going to meet with Dr. Lane. We're going to talk, we're setting up a meeting with our head nurse to meet with Janine and I, hopefully this week. We're going to have those conversations. And at the end of the day, we're going to have to make the very best, just like we do on other situations. We're going to have to be making the very best situation. And I hope none of us, and I'm trying very hard, don't get yourself thinking one way. You know, it may be best that we go virtual. It may be best that we have that instruction during the day and have it in person. We know how hard it is to teach the act of reading anyway, and we know we have many families that are coming 1, 2, 3 years behind when they enter our schools. How are we going to bridge that attendance gap if we're all virtual? So, not saying it's not the right thing to do, because safety is important, everything that you're saying, but there's how will you know? I think that's I think it's a fair question, Ms. Weishart asked. I think it's a very fair question. The hard thing is to have the accurate answer. And what I've always tried to advise Dr. Snyder is think, consider, be open. And at the end of the day, we may have to push and go a different route. Just because we have a plan doesn't mean that's the plan we're going to have. What we said was that was the right thing for that day that we passed it, when the board passed. That was the right thing for the time. And not everybody agreed with every part of it. We had people here today speak about masks. And I understand those concerns. I think there's lots of concerns out there. I talked to a pediatrician that there was 2 things they would like added to the plan. We discussed those today. One of those is when employees report to me on COVID-19, if they have a situation or the families, we're adding the words within 24 hours because we want that report to happen quickly. We didn't have that. So that's something we could add. We have a situation where the virtual learners, we say, can play sports if they're passing 5 classes. We didn't mention band and we didn't mention theater. So we're going to maybe change those things to add to where they can participate in other after-school activities. So my thing would be patient, keep listening to the experts, and be ready to adapt seconds notice. And we do know, and we're also considering the families out there. And not every family has child care. I know just when my own kids, and it's been many, many years ago, had every other day kindergarten, that was tough with babysitting and getting proper support. Not every family has that proper support at home if we go virtual learning. So that's a factor we have to weigh. Unfortunately, the country hasn't solved something, but they're expecting the school system to solve it. And we're going to do the very best we can. But we do have to be open-minded and know that conditions are changing around us every second and consider that.
I appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Briscoe, and I think that's the way we need to be. I know we've used the word fluid, but that's what we need to do. And, and I'm going to ask you one of those hypothetical questions. What if a teacher does come down with COVID? Do they have to use their personal leave, or would there be a special?
Mrs.
Are we
Corson
going
can answer that right now.
Okay, good.
So under the expansion of FMLA, the federal law, they passed what we call FFCRA, Family First Coronavirus Act. So for the first 2 weeks, 10 working days, 80 hours is the equivalent, a person gets sick days on us, which is nothing charged against their account.
Okay.
However, if a person was to have complications or have to extend that time, then they would divert to their own personal sick time. And this law is in effect right now through December 31st.
Okay. Why if we had a woman who's a teacher and her husband gets corona, and then she has to stay at home in quarantine?
Yeah.
Do we cover that then too?
Yes.
Okay.
It's limited to the 10 days,
Okay.
but it could be you, or if you're quarantined because of a household
Okay.
person.
Okay. And what's the name of what was just passed?
It's Family First Coronavirus Response Act, and it's an expansion of FMLA.
Okay.
It was passed April 1st, and it extends to December 31st. And we have been working with that since April 1st.
Okay. All right. I think there was one other question. Well,
While she's thinking.
Yeah.
This is one of those, and I can't thank you enough, girl. She's getting an enormous amount of calls from me because, thank you. Based on what I think you've told me, when someone tests positive, let's say a kid tests positive, it's mandated that they have to report that to the state and to the local health department. And then it's up to the state and local health department to do the tracing investigation.
It's our understanding, and Bill Briscoe is our designated report too.
Okay.
Then he has to in turn report to the health department and to the state, and there are some procedures, so we're not in session yet, so I don't know that
We've already filled out one report.
Okay. And then the state is doing the contact tracing.
Right.
That is
okay.
what Dr. Box had said.
So how does that, where does HIPAA fall into this? And will a school be notified of the name of the kid? And then I mean, how does HIPAA come in? Because I'm not getting this.
Yeah, so HIPAA and FERPA do apply, and we will do everything in our power to keep all of that very discreet. What we can't control, and this is true with anyone, is if an individual goes out telling people. So even when an employee might contact my office and say, hey, I'm going out for surgery or I'm expecting, if they go and tell other people, I cannot control who
Sure.
finds out.
Okay.
That does happen with almost everything. People share their personal information with others, and we can't control what they share with others. However, Mr. Briscoe and I are doing everything in our power to make sure that that information is not disclosed. We haven't been through a whole lot of contact tracing, so we'll see how the state, but they may ask for seating charts from a bus. They may ask for seating charts in a classroom, and we will take their guidance when they ask for that, and we will cooperate fully with that information.
What we really need is for parents and staff to let us know as soon as possible if there's a situation so that we can do everything we can to minimize going forward.
And so let's say little third grader Peyton Manning, because I'm going through morning of the NFL. So let's just say little Peyton Manning's a third grader.
He can
and
play.
He tests positive for COVID. What is, in the current plan, what is the school corporation going to do to communicate to Peyton's classmates that somebody in their class that their child was next to got exposed to COVID? I mean, because there's parents asking me that, and I don't know what to say.
So I'm going to defer to Bill here in a second, but I want to make it very, very clear. We don't know exactly what the guidance will be until those things happen. And every classroom could look differently because of the makeup of the room. So I'm going to defer to Bill now.
Sure. The first thing we would do if we had a situation, and we've told parents we're going to communicate, so we're going to communicate. We're not going to hide if there's a situation at the school. We're going to talk to Dr. Harris. And Dr. Harris, through our discussion, I'm sure there will be discussion of what is the situation in Floyd County? What is the numbers? How many have happened at that particular school? Is it this one isolated case or it's multiple cases? Will we shut down the school 2 to 5 days? That's something I'm sure we would discuss, whether that's the proper thing to do. But we will, again, we are not health experts, and we will definitely be talking to Dr. Harris and getting his direction on what he thinks is best. Regardless, we would let the parents know if there's a situation. We would say, there's a case at this X school, so they can make their own personal decisions if we are not closing down. But we want them to have the information. We're not going to hide. Now, the hard thing for doing this is, as you all, it's the privacy issue, but we also know if somebody's out for 2 weeks and they're the only staff person in the school that's out for 2 weeks, there's going to be some people probably figure it out. But they're not going to get it from us. We are not going to release the name, but we will tell if it's a parent at Mount Tabor that there is a case. Now, how specific we get and say, is it second grade or first grade? That's to be determined with Dr. Harris and what he thinks is best.
And I will use this just analogy. I know that it took kids dying and getting deathly ill from heat exhaustion on our local football fields and athletic fields for them to change that with our current policies on heat index, because we didn't know that was coming. We did not know that the heat was going to cause someone to die, or we know this kills people. So I do not, for the love of my God, know why we are not erring on the side of life and safety and just chilling for a minute. I don't want to wait until someone gets exposed and someone dies, especially not a kid.
I am, Leanne, the fear is real for everyone. And anyone we come in contact can have no symptoms and be positive. And as we saw tonight, there are polar opposite feelings about masks. We saw a young girl quote 80-some% if you wear a mask, and we have others who are very much against them. And I don't know that anyone's situation is right or wrong. What I do know is that any single person in this room could have it right now, and we not know it, and all of us be exposed and get it. That's what we do know about the virus today, that we just don't know.
Right.
So I do think the slow approach, for us, staying calm and handling every situation as it comes to us in a very thought out, well thought out process is the best we can do. I think the what ifs all over the country are even more scary. You heard Mrs. Higbee read off the detrimental effects of not having kids in school. I hear from more teachers who want to come back than I hear from those who don't want to. Again, polarizing, opposite opinions on things. But I do think that moving forward is the most important thing, as safely as we can do it.
And if I'm projecting the wrong emotion, I'm not scared, I'm angry. So I apologize if it's fear, because fear is not driving me, the data is.
Well, I'm fearful too, but I hand sanitize, I wash often, I wear my mask, not to protect myself, but to protect all of you. That's why I mask up.
Okay, so do we have the equipment for e-learning? I know we were getting iPads, the one-to-one. Are those available at this time?
Dr. Snyder, do you want me to take that?
That'd be great.
Yeah, I apologize for not being in person today. Madam President, we've been working very hard and diligently to try to get that prepared. And Mr. Briscoe's been correct. We had these conversations. As of today, we were planning on starting physically in the classroom on July the 29th. But with that being said, we are trying to gear up a potential, if for some reason we're not going to do that, we can get devices in our hands of our students as soon as possible. And that would be possibly the week of actually school starting, maybe a couple of days before. But we are working very hard to get all our devices. The good news is all the devices are on site, and we just have to get it all prepared. This recently, the SNAP codes went out to our parents to register online. We encouraged them to do that because we need the information from registration to know who's returning to assign devices, especially K through 4. Because K through 4 did not have devices last year. We need to know who's going to be in our seats coming this fall. So it's very important they do that. With that being said, we are in the process. I know I had a conversation with Ms. Gardner last week about hotspots. We are able to obtain some hotspots. We're actually writing our Greer's grant to help fund that. So that seems to be positive. With something we didn't think existed a little while ago, we think we'll be able to get some hotspots in the future.
Okay, and when you're saying hotspots, you're talking about Wi-Fi spots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Clarification there.
I guess I too am concerned about our staff and the adults in the room, and of course the children. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know what's coming down the pike. And I guess I just want to guarantee that, and I know there are no guarantees in life, believe me, I know that. But when we see the number of cases rise in Floyd County, I mean, we had an event just this past weekend that I was just taken aback that we had so many of our students participate in that type situation. But 2 weeks from now, all those students could be testing positive. I just want to know that we have the equipment, we have everything we need so that we are going to be able to turn on a dime so that no one has to lose their life or become sick or a grandmother has to become sick. I want to know that we're going to do that. And I want to know that we have everything in place that we can possibly do. We passed a resolution at our last meeting saying that we approved this plan with the understanding that we will turn on a dime and we will change it and we will make things as safe as possible. But we don't know. But I am concerned about the overall numbers in our country on the rise. I'm concerned about people that are not thinking of others and what do they say? I don't wear my mask for me, I wear my mask for you. And I want you to be able to tell me that we will turn on a dime if there are increases in our county and we are fluid and nimble. I mean, Washington Township had their plan in place, ready to go, and they changed their mind. And I don't know if there's a way to survey our parents or get more input of where we're going. And I get emails from people saying, absolutely no masks, that's crazy, to I want 100% masks. I get just as many that say, I want all virtual school, I don't want to come to school, and then I don't want any virtual. We are completely polarized, as Ms. Corson says. But we have to look at the facts and we have to look at the data. And if the numbers start to rise in Floyd County, I want to know that we can turn on a dime, we can pull our kids back, and we can do effective e-learning.
Can I make a comment? I was just going to say, I agree with the turn on the dime, and I'm hoping Louis, Dr. Jensen there, is that the first week of school that we are going to prepare everybody to turn on a dime by making sure they know how to do virtual school, get in the event that does happen, to take that opportunity while we have them in the school to go over that and have them fully prepared.
Yep.
Is that kind of the game plan?
Yeah, well, I'll weigh in here on two different topics. I guess let's start with the turn on a dime phrase. It's my opinion that we can't turn on a dime until we have a day one, right? Because we've got to get kids enrolled, they got to identify themselves with the school, they got to get a device, they got to get credentials. I mean, there's got to be a day one. Once we have a day one, and if we want to turn on a dime, we will turn on a dime. There's just no doubt about it. Now, in addition to that, because people have opinions on this, if right now we are targeting 7/29 for day one. My read on the organization, by listening to Bill Hamby, Louis Jensen, Steve, Bill, Janine, Lisa, Marsh, I think we can do it. If y'all want that to be August 3rd, we can do that. If you want it to be August 10th, we can do that. If you want it to August, we can do that. At the end of it, we still have to satisfy 180 days of instruction before we can call it a year. So, we have options. Again, people have opinions about fall break and winter break and spring break and going into June the following year and all these kinds of things. And we have all those options available for us. If I do not think we're ready for 7/29, I'll tell you. And I'll tell you that. But again, if the board wants to give another date or another set of direction, I'm open. But right now, We are trying to implement the plan and monitoring it in real time with real data.
When's the first teacher's contract day?
27th,
That's a Monday.
So Monday, the 27th, with this current plan. So Monday, the 27th is our teacher's first day that they're contracted to work. And they've got 2 days to figure out how to do these classes and teach and keep their room healthy, and that's what this is about, right? And is that accurate? Is that an accurate? They have 2 days to teach to this plan.
correct.
And we've had 2 weeks, and we all have doubt. I don't think that's fair to our teachers, and I will just make one more comment about it. If I knew where the camera was, I would look into it. Teachers, I am trying. You need to reach out to your association. You need to speak up. You cannot let fear keep you silent anymore. I cannot advocate and be the only one speaking for you in resistance to anything. You guys have to start speaking up to your representative, to the superintendent, to Mr. Bisco. You're going to have to start speaking because it's not working with me telling them.
I will, again, these are unprecedented times, and this is a different deal. But we're discussing things with the association tomorrow. And if this is something that the association administration wants to modify, I'm totally open. We pay them for 185 days. We have to educate kids 180 of those. Again, we've come into this with an overarching theme, and maybe it's a faulty theme. Maybe it is we were wanting to return to some level of normality, rhythm and routine, whatever that meant for people. Right? And 2 days before kids come in has been a normal thing. Maybe it's not enough. Maybe it's not. And if it's not, then we should change it. But again, I think that I'm willing to listen to the teacher's voice on that. I'm willing to listen to Bill Briscoe's voice on that. I have great trust, and again, maybe the board, but I do have great trust in my advisors. I think we listen. I don't think we get bad advice, and we're trying to do our very best in a very difficult situation with our different opinions. But I guess I do need to, ask the hard question. Ms. Weishart's been asking me the hard question. I'm a servant of the board, right? Mrs. Weishart has articulated a different position tonight than where we were a couple weeks ago, which is fine, which is fair, because things happened. But if the rest of the board is there, I need to know. Because if I'm going on the assumption and the premise that I'm supposed to implement the plan that you gave me to implement. And if that's changed, I kind of need to know that.
My personal opinion is we stick with the plan, and if we have to change, we change. But we can't just keep yanking everything around constantly. We've got to at least have some game plan.
So that parents and families and teachers can plan. I agree.
Then I'm asking you, because the data shows the numbers continue to rise in Floyd County, what is the number that this board is going to say is enough, that you would want the plan to change? If you can say you're comfortable with rising numbers continuing and you don't want change, then tell me what this needs to change to and increase before this board wants to do something different. I think our staff owes that to hear from you guys.
Well, in all fairness, Leanne, we closed down the schools when we even had less numbers than we have now.
Yes, we did. Can you say that into your microphone?
In all fairness, we closed down the schools with fewer numbers than we have now.
Right.
But it is changing. I think at some point we have to try to mitigate the risk as much as we can. But there is no easy answer. I don't know what the right answer is. I am afraid for our teachers and staff, probably more so than the students, because they're not really at high risk. But, if it were my wish, I would like to see the teachers say, I want to do virtual school, I want to do in-sync school, or I want to be in the class, and however many we got, then maybe the kids sign up for that, but, I don't know. How do we drive it? I don't know.
Dr. Snyder, I feel like you have direction. Okay,
I have it.
thank you.
Just a couple. We said the last meeting, the plan that we approved, at the bottom of the first page, that administration, in consultation with the health department, paraphrase a little bit, and legal counsel, reserves full discretion to unilaterally add, modify, delete, otherwise change. This manual may be based anytime without advance notice or other consideration due to COVID. We gave you that
Right.
marching orders at that point in time.
Correct.
To me, nothing's changed in the last 2 weeks to change that at this point in time. It might tomorrow.
Right.
It might in 10 minutes. It might when the governor does. But we've given you the authority to do that if it's warranted with the health department, legal counsel, administration have got the authority to do that. To me, that's your marching orders, and we haven't changed anything to do that.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this?
I just want to ask one small question. The practice E-days, do we have a date in mind? Or is that being?
I'm going to let the discussion team.
Okay, sorry. I didn't wanna-
Well,
It's fine. I'm glad we're doing it. I
no,
think it's very
just
proactive.
so that you know how it's normally done. Usually, whichever side administrate, we have an idea. But I'm a big believer in the best idea wins. So Mr. Briscoe, I've given him an idea. He's going to carry it to Lisa and her team. And if they come up with better ideas, we're going to use theirs.
Thank you.
The idea is to put us in position to turn on the dime when we want to, need to, have to. That's the overarching idea.
Anyone else? All right.
I just want to, I've got to go back. I can't not do this without listening to people. Because I heard in the newspaper, mandatory Floyd County, New Albany, Floyd County, mandatory face mask. But they stopped at that mandatory part. And that's the thing that always concerns me. It says unless appropriately social distance. So that means if you're in a classroom social distancing, the kids are not wearing masks. It also says activity-based, and the teacher has discretion. I wish they would have had the entire thing instead of saying that it's, required. They made it sound like it's at all times. The teacher have control of the classrooms. And we've got to put that out there, social distancing. I'm looking around. I don't have my mask. I came in with my mask. I'm 6 feet away from Rebecca, 6 feet away from Brad. I'm social distancing. When I get closer, I'm going to put it on. When I'm outside, if I'm not social distancing, I'm going to put it on. But we need to read the entire thing and not just pick and choose a few words and put that in the headline. And that just kind of bothers me when I see that, that we're the only corporation that's requiring it. Read the entire thing before you really say what's going on. That teacher has control of their classroom.
Thank you for that nugget, Joe. Because the perception has been that elementary kids are going to have masks on all day long. And based on the plan, that is not true.
That's just not true.
It's not true.
That's just not true.
It's not true.
I mean,
It never
the
was
teacher
true.
has control of their classroom. Somebody said, my granddaughter said, well, how am I going to sing in choir with a mask on? How are we going to have a choir? I'm like, why do you get that? Well, it's required. They're thinking all the time.
Yep.
I'm thinking, that's activity-based. I don't think we're going to require kids to play in an orchestra with their mask on, the tuba through the thing there. Come on, people. Let's be realistic here and not be so taking these words and just thinking that, these kids are going to be in their mask all the time. I'm like, I've seen people at restaurants that take a bite and then put their mask back. I'm like, well, okay, if you want to do that. But, I don't eat my lunch with my mask on. I'm sorry.
You mean you haven't poked a hole in it for your
I
straw?
haven't poked a hole in my mask. No, I haven't. Anyway, sorry. Let me get off my soapbox now.
We appreciate a little levity at this point, Mr. Brown. Thank you. All right, so we're ready to move on to discuss potential dates for executive session meeting. Dr. Snyder?
Can be very brief. I would like to meet with the board on July 27 at 6 p.m. to discuss real estate matters with myself and Mr. Weishart. Can we do that? Calendar's free?
I cannot, I'm sorry.
Okay. How about
I
8/3?
can meet the next week, but not that day.
Would 8/3 work with everyone?
August 3rd,
Yes.
that would work.
I can meet August 3rd.
At 6?
Yes.
I can do August 3rd.
Yes.
August 3rd? Yes.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll make that happen. I appreciate it.
Ms. Weishart, does that work for you, August 3rd?
It does, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. And then diversity, Ms. Weishart?
Yes, I wanted to get the board's conversation about having a diversity committee that has two board members appointed to it. So it would be a board-driven committee throughout our corporation. That would include, similar to the structure that we had several years ago under, I guess, a couple superintendents ago, which included a diverse group of leaders from the community, parents. I would even advocate for students, however they can't vote. But I think this corporation is lacking diversity leadership guidance, and I am humbly admitting that there's so much more for me to learn, and I want to, and the only way we're going to learn is if we have some kind of a diversity committee and we're learning from one another that are fitting in that category. So I wanted to see what the board's opinion was on bringing back the New Albany-Floyd County board appointed, meaning 2 board members appointed to, diversity committee.
Good idea.
I think when we had this, I even have material still from that committee.
Binder.
Deborah Wesley, obviously, was on it. A lot of it we concentrated on African Americans being suspended, what the suspension rate was, and also hiring African Americans. And actually, we had every month when they did the staffing report, it was told us how many African Americans had applied and how many had interviewed, and that somehow stopped several years ago. But that was a big part of the meeting.
Yeah, that committee was helpful in driving some policies and some changes and some resources to minority students who were struggling at that time during our corporation. So I think that the role of the committee would be to focus on the diversity issues in our community and our school corporation and how can we be better. Just from the makeup of who's sitting up here, I have a sunburn, but we have no person of color diversity representing us right now. And I think we have to do better. Our kids deserve it. We have to do better.
When we met, the superintendent always met with the committee, and I forget who else. But there were various people throughout the community that were on it. But there were at least 2 school board members. I was on it. You were on it.
I mean, there were several throughout. So
Yeah.
what does the rest of the board feel about that?
I think it's a good idea.
So,
It's a good idea.
yeah, I would not be adverse to this. I know that some teachers, the association did reach out about a diversity action council before this. I believe it's in planning phases and being discussed. I don't know that now, the next couple of months, is a good time for this. I think we should focus just all of our energies on what's going on with the school reopening with the absolute intention of bringing it to the forefront with a little time. That's just my opinion as one member. I'm concerned that we just need to focus.
I think this is the most important time.
And I would say that too.
No, I
especially
respect that we have different
Yeah.
opinions about it.
where
I
we're
do.
at nationally, and it's just been a void, in my opinion, too long. So I would rather we get something set up and move forward if the board's comfortable with that. But
I don't know if Ms. Jones would be, if she would be interested, hopefully, to be a part of this committee, diversity committee.
Elaine,
And,
Elizabeth, Donna, Joe, where are you guys at?
I think it's a good idea, especially where we're at in
I think we
I
have
would be
to,
on it if nobody else.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
society today.
I think we have to give a shout out to Sharon Jones as our Director of Diversity and Equity.
Yeah.
and the initiatives that she has in place and what she's doing with our students at this time. But to further explore diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think we would be amiss if we did not do that. I would want us to branch out. I think we need to be more inclusive. Equity is always a concern, and of course, diversity. But we do have some things in place, but I think it's something that we as a corporation, we need to all take a look at the man in the mirror, see what we're doing individually. Starting with the committee would be a starting point. We could certainly do that, but I would want to hear from Ms. Jones and from people in the buildings what they are doing with students that we're not even aware of that addresses concerns. So,
Well, that's what they would address the committee. That's why we would have teachers on the committee and some administrators. Those are the exact type things we would talk about
Right.
and what's needed.
right, and we would need a starting point. We would need to hear what they have in place and move forward from there. So I'm not
So you're
adverse
saying
to
to do that first before we have the committee?
I would want to hear from Sharon Jones to see where we need to start off, see what we have in place, and go from there.
The baseline.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you because, I mean, we started out with the diversity committee and we had Deborah Wesley on. And then we jumped off, then we went with it.
There are some things probably that you don't understand that we're doing. I know Sharon and Janine Corson, we do want to do bias training for every staff member this year. So that's one of their goals that they're working on. We're doing that. There probably are some things that we're doing that you're not aware of that the whole board would probably be important. It's important for you to know.
And I do think I don't mean to interrupt, but I do think there are two different ideas. I think Mrs. Murphy's talking about an update or an inventory of what are we doing. I mean, the assumption is we're not doing anything, which is not true. But perhaps in a work session or whenever you want to do it, depending on your views on COVID, we could accommodate that by asking Sharon to work up an inventory, which is a different conversation we're having over here. I think over here, that inventory would go to the committee, if I'm understanding.
Right.
That's what I see.
So it's up to you.
So I think most people are okay with it.
So yeah, do we go ahead and set up the committee or what?
Because this is just under the section of information and discussion items, so do we want to make a motion at that point? Or is this,
I'd be happy to put some parameters down, and we have it on the next board meeting agenda.
okay,
And then I'll shoot the parameters out to you guys, and we can just fiddle with it and edit it and take some time to research what was done in the past, talk with Sharon, because she needs to know. This is meant to help her, not make her have more work, for heaven's sakes. And none of my comments in any way, shape, or form were meant to imply that we're not doing anything.
Right.
So I will just say that right now, we are. I just want to get better.
But I would like to know more about what we are doing personally.
Sure, sure.
I know we're doing stuff, but I'm sure I don't know all of it.
Right, and there are things that I'm sure elementary counselors are doing in different buildings that we're not aware of. And I think it would be helpful for us to know everything that is going on and then take the committee forward from there.
and it wouldn't be nice to have some data so that we have a baseline, so that we can see what we're doing if we do make some changes, if it's effective.
All right, so Ms. Weishart, we'll count on you to,
I'll put just something rough out, and then we'll go with it, and then it'll be on the agenda for the
Sure.
next board meeting.
to give us a starting point. All right, miscellaneous, Dr. Jensen, graduation plan facilitation.
Yes, just to kind of touch base, I think everyone's aware of our graduation plan for this Saturday. And as Dr. Snyder referred to, we've been having numerous conversations each week about what is the best plan, the safest plan for our students and our parents. So we are intended to go forward with our plan. As stated 2 weeks ago, we have a 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock ceremony at both schools. We're recognizing half the student body, the graduating class. Then the entire graduating class will be present, and there'll be 4 tickets for the parents whose kids are walking across that stage. And we'll clear out the session ceremony, and we'll have another ceremony at 11. With that being said, we know we're going to listen to Governor Holcomb's press conference on Wednesday, and we're going to hear what he has to say. We're going to come conversation with Dr. Harris also. We want to make sure Dr. Harris is comfortable with our plan. Now, we'll say that even though that's our plan moving today forward on Monday, we have some ideas of what a contingency plan or plans could be. So we're setting up contingency plans. And we think in Wednesday, if things change based on what Governor Holcomb says or what Dr. Harris says or the data in the Floyd County changes, we feel comfortable that we can get out communication to our graduating seniors and their parents of the new plan or changes of the plan. The only thing that's kind of changed since the last time we talked 2 weeks ago is that we're going to require all individuals attending the ceremony to wear masks. Originally, it was just the staff members and students, and now we're going to ask all parents who are coming in. We were doing the randomly temperature taking of the parents, but now we're going to ask them to wear a mask inside the gym. So we gave you tonight, I think, 2 masks at your desk or chair that you can wear. I will be sending out an email in the morning asking you if you're going to attend the graduation ceremonies as we stated tonight. And if you are, do you have a preference if you want to start at one ceremony versus the other, or if you want to stay at one school versus the other? So we will have reserved parking for everyone. We obviously don't anticipate the near numbers of attendees because we've reduced the tickets and the number of parents who will be attending. We're asking everyone to wear the robes. I know the central office and the administration will be in robes. The stage will be pretty much clear. We will not have counselors on the stage. It will be the school board members and 2 central office administrators and probably the building principal. So those are kind of the plans we have today. With that being said, I do know that they could change based on the information we get on Wednesday. Questions from me?
Yeah, how many graduates are there at each school?
There are over 400 potential graduates that could be attending each of the ceremonies. And so those are one of the things we're monitoring. And we wanted Dr. Harris to make sure he was clear that that was going to be over the 250 that was in the Governor Holcomb's plan. And he was comfortable with that.
And I think when we came up with this plan, we thought we'd be into another phase, which would be allowing us to have more people. And the reason I'm bringing this conversation up tonight is because of the data and the current executive order from the governor, where because of the rising increases in the state, he chose not to go to the 5th phase. He kept it at 4.5. In all probability, although I'm not speaking for the governor, based on his past practice and the fact that the numbers continue to rise, to me, it makes probable sense that he would not phase up again. So we don't know until Wednesday. This current 4.5 plan is through Friday, which would be the day before graduation. The current plan does not comply with the current executive order, which states 250 gathering. That is why I think we should make changes now and just let this be for the students, because I don't know how he's going to phase up when the numbers continue to rise, and that's why he didn't phase up. So that is why I brought this up. Graduation is one of the most important days for me as an elected school board member. I love it. I've got kids in every single session at both schools that I've coached, that I've mentored, and some that asked me to give them their diplomas. I have given my